All right, everybody. Thank you for joining another episode of Simply Finance with Shane White. I am stoked today to have the man. I at least found you from Instagram. I call you the man from Instagram, Eric Hinman, on the podcast. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate you having me.
100%. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate you taking the time. Before we started rolling, we were just saying how you're partaking in the quarterfinals for the Masters division of CrossFit. So appreciate you. You know, it's a busy weekend for you. So thank you for taking the time. Would you mind just giving everyone, especially the listeners who maybe don't know who you are, just a little bit of a background of you?
Sure. So first and foremost, entrepreneur. I started an insurance business out of college that I ran for a 7-year period, property and casualty insurance. And it's been on autopilot for the last 11 years now. I was involved in software for a 4-year period, building mobile applications from 2010 until 2014, sold my shares in that company in 2014, and then started investing in passion projects, a couple restaurants, a fitness facility, some consumer brands like 10,000. And along the way, I started redesigning my life. Instead of, chasing monetary success, I started really just chasing like self-care and health and wellness, realizing that, health is the ultimate wealth. And I got into Ironman in 2011, did my first half Ironman then,
Nice.
First full Ironman in 2012, qualified for the championships in Ironman in 2013, raced it. And then same thing in 2014, qualified and raced the world championships. So during that time period, I was really focused on just dialing in sleep, recovery, nutrition, purposeful training. Each year I would pick something new to tackle. And then since 2015, I haven't competed in Ironman, but I got heavy into CrossFit and functional fitness and mountain biking. So now, lifestyle athlete, I exercise about the same duration as I was before with Ironman, but it's not just cardio. I'm doing strength training, gymnastics, anaerobic conditioning, aerobic conditioning, mountain biking, trail running, hiking, just kind of well-rounded as opposed to, really good at one thing, but sacrificing on other areas of fitness. And I'm 40 now. So, recovery has really been paramount. I think a lot of people look to me for guidance in recovery, and I'm religious about doing some type of extreme heat, extreme cold exposure every single day. And I've tinkered with pretty much every other recovery mechanism there is out there.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I know. When I started following you on, I think Instagram, I remember just being like, oh yeah, this guy is just obsessed with just wellness, which I thought was you were just a breath of fresh air to like, just, learn some stuff from. Would you mind going back a little bit? I thought it was really interesting. I didn't know about the insurance business. How did you even get started in that? Like that's like step one, I guess, to where you are today, but like what made you get into that?
Yeah, so I grew up, my father managed a small property and casualty insurance company in upstate New York. So I grew up in the business. He kind of, groomed me along the way, showed me the business, the different facets of it. And I went to college and studied business management. I knew that I wanted to own my own business and create my own destiny. And the day after I graduated, I took my property and casualty insurance examination course and got my license 3 weeks later. And my father gave me a company car, a small salary, and said, go off and create your own business. And, for 7 years, I put 50,000 miles on a car and went door to door selling insurance, mainly to campgrounds and marinas in upstate New York, wearing a suit and tie every single day. I mean, now, as you can see, I'm in, tank top and shorts. So my life is very different now, but I'm so grateful that my father pointed me in that direction early on, because I was able to build residual income and an asset for myself that paved the way to everything else I've been able to do since then. So yeah, my father was the one who really gave me that opportunity and pointed me in that direction, and said, like, if you want to own your own business, like, do something where you're going to be able to make money while you sleep and, build residual income.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. When you got started in it, did you, all the stuff you're doing now, whether it's entrepreneurship, the health and wellness side of things, even like partnerships, was that all in the like long-term plan when you first got started? Or was like, really, you're just like, okay, I'm going to start this business, and then that stuff has just kind of evolved?
Yeah, it was not in the plans. I knew that I didn't want to do insurance forever, but I had no plan of what the next thing was going to be. And, software was just something I fell into. I was in New York City with a friend, and we were walking through Soho, and we were using these red maps called red maps to get around to the different like restaurants and hotels and stuff there. And this is going back to 2009. And we each had iPhones, and we're like, I really feel like everyone is going to use their phone, to get around soon.
Yeah.
And, this is right when like Yelp was launching and Foursquare. So we created some apps that help, tourists find places specifically in New York City. And, that eventually turned into an app development shop. We were unsuccessful
Oh,
with those apps. They just didn't scale like a Yelp or Foursquare because of how we developed them. But it did get us in the ball game super early, and we became known as a premier app development firm. And being in Syracuse, New York, we had access to Syracuse University students and Cornell students that were learning mobile app development. So our environment led to us being able to find incredible talent. But no, I had no plans to be in software. I had no plans to be in restaurants. I had no plans to get into a life of health and wellness. It's
yeah.
just I've I've been fairly good at knowing when one chapter of my life is no longer serving me and
Okay.
moving on to the next chapter, and just I go all in. So when I find something I enjoy, I'm all in on it. I'm doing it on a regular basis, and I try to become expert at it. So the restaurants were passion projects. The gym was a passion project. All of the brands I've invested in were meeting people in the real world. I'm not, actively seeking investments. I just try to meet a lot of people.
Oh,
And by doing that, opportunities come your way if you're able to, have a large network of interesting people.
yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, see, it's funny how some of that kind of like snowballs too. You see that happen to a lot of people. Um, for you, like, how did you? It sounds like okay, so you go all in on whatever you're really into. So at this point, like, are you? I mean, this is a dumb question, but are you like still pretty involved with, the restaurants? Are you still pretty involved with some of these other things all at the same time, or do you have a lot of those on autopilot? Because it seems like like you've mentioned, like you kind of have designed your life to be the way you want it to be day in and day out, not obviously in an office right now or anything. So how did you? I think a lot of people listening who know a little bit about you, and we can get into more of it, but you're involved in so many things, and you're an investor, you're an angel investor, you've started companies. So how do you like manage all of that stuff at one time?
Yeah. So I learned with the insurance business, how to delegate, automate, and eliminate. I was doing everything for that 7-year period. And once I started delegating some of the duties, I realized that like there's some things that only I can do and I can do best. And there's a lot of things that other people can do and probably can do better than me. So that was my first lesson in like serial entrepreneurship, is if you want to, be involved in multiple things, you can't be involved operationally in all of them. So with
Mm,
each new venture, my role has become smaller and smaller. The restaurants, the gym, I helped open them up. I was instrumental early on in building the brand and getting people excited about it and opening it, investing in it, but no operational role whatsoever. Same with all of the investments I've made. I mean, I try to make connections, but outside of that, I have no daily operational role whatsoever. So, while it sounds like it's a lot on paper, my role is very insignificant from a day-to-day standpoint and in all of the different ventures I'm involved in. My day-to-day now, where I'm trading time for money,
yeah.
is lifestyle content creation. So it's being sponsored by different brands and creating content around my lifestyle. But that's something I enjoy. I would do it anyways. I was doing it anyways before I was
Yeah.
ever paid by any brand. So I just like being creative and kind of telling a story and sharing things I've learned along the way. And now I work with a number of different brands that weave in with my lifestyle. So it doesn't feel like work. And I always share that message with people, is if you're going to trade time for money, try and align it with your passions and your lifestyle.
That makes a ton of sense. That's a great advice too. Yeah, I mean, how did you like I think it's interesting the like influencer side of things. Is that something that, as you got involved in more and more of these different types of businesses and just the content you were already producing, did that kind of show up on its own? Like you had some brands that reach out to you, or was that something that you like thought in the back of your head, like maybe I should like go for the brands that weave into my lifestyle. And you kind of, worked on trying to build that as like another revenue stream. Like I'm always curious. I've never talked to someone who's really done that well. And I always think of you as someone who's done that pretty well with brands that do tie great into like what you're doing.
Yep. So I fell into it. Early on in Instagram, like going back to 2011, just like everyone else, I was just kind of showcasing my highlight reel. I was sharing, the cool bike I just bought, the copious amounts of food I was eating, training for Ironman.
Right.
I didn't think
Yeah.
of it as a brand. I was just posting pictures. And then 2015, maybe I had some brands that messaged me and they're like, hey, can we send you our product to try? And I'm like, yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then 2016 was really the aha moment when Oakley invited me to spectate the Ironman World Championships, and they, flew me to Hawaii and gave me tons of cool
Oh,
product. And,
wow.
I got to just spend a week in Hawaii spectating and promoting their new Radar Pace sunglasses. And that's when it clicked for me of like, wow, brands are going to start paying people with these niche followings to promote their products. So that's when I started thinking of it as a brand. And, I bought a camera, learned photography over the last 3 or 4 years, and, thought through like, I want to provide value with each post, whether it's inspiration, knowledge, evoke some kind of emotion with it. So yeah, it really just, I fell into it and kind of learned along the way like what my value add was for these brands. And also making sure that I was working with brands whose products I loved and used, because ultimately I don't want it to feel like work. Like I love my day to day. And I don't want to do things that don't flow with my life of health and wellness and adventure and recovery. So I'm very careful with the brands I work with to make sure they align with my lifestyle. So that it's easy to promote them, but B, so it is truly things that I enjoy using.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's something I've always wondered too is for you, you must get so many, like once you get a few, I'm sure the ball starts rolling a little bit. I mean, you
Yeah,
must get a bunch of brands that are kind of, bullshit as far as like aligning with your values. So how do
yeah,
you kind of like sift through the good brands, the bad brands, and ultimately decide on the ones you're either going to partner with or invest in?
sure. So well, I'll answer that a couple different ways. Invest in, like I like to develop relationships before I invest. So I want to
Okay.
know the founders. I want to know their backstory. I like using the Tokyo rule. Would I fly to Tokyo with them? Like, do I
Oh,
really like them?
never heard of that one.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Is it a product and service that I'm going to use on a regular basis? Is it something that I think is scalable? Do I think they have the ability to like raise future funding? Do I think they have the ability to seek out um, a buyer eventually or go public? So, I look at all those different things, but ultimately I want to have a relationship with that person. I haven't invested in anything where I didn't have some kind of relationship with the founding team. And then from the standpoint of working with brands, I mean, I kind of know right away whether or not it's a brand that's going to weave in with my lifestyle, like
Sure.
Ice Barrel. I do cold plunges every single day. Ice Barrel's a no-brainer. 10,000. I love their apparel. I wear it every single day. Aftershocks headphones. I wear their headphones when I'm exercising. So I work with brands whose products I use in my day-to-day life. And in 2018, I hired an agent who's also a very close friend in New York City who manages the deals for me. And,
Oh, nice.
again, that goes back to like delegate, automate, eliminate. Like I'm the only one who can live my life and create the content, but there's other people that can negotiate the contracts, do the invoicing, just sift through all the different deals and see which ones are best. So he does all of that back end work so that I can just focus on the creation side of it and, living my life.
That's powerful. I can imagine. And I wrote that down: delegate, automate, eliminate. I love that. Because yeah, that's what's been impressive. You see like all the brands you work with. I know you're invested in stuff, the restaurants, the gym. First thing is like just how you're like one of those people that I'm always like, where do they find enough hours in the day? And that's something that I deal with whether it's the podcast, the other things I'm working on. It's like usually it's just me, but so you feel like you have to do everything. But I guess that's the whole point, right? The more people you can kind of have, helping you with that kind of allows you to unlock more time and more things you can spend your time on.
Exactly. Yeah. Operations is, the time suck. So, if you can partner with people that are very good at operations and want to do the operational aspect of it from the standpoint of like a business partner, then that's how you become a serial entrepreneur. And, from the standpoint of investing, it's, capital, obviously, but also connections. Like I want to add more value than just putting money in. So, I try to partner with or invest in brands where I know I can leverage my network of, boutique fitness studio owners and distribution channels and, health and wellness influencers. So, I want to be more than just throwing money in with any of the companies that I invest in.
That makes sense. How do you think about investing in like brands, just in the grand scheme of like your financial portfolio? Like, I think it's funny as I've kind of evolved. I mean, I don't know if I told you or not before, but I have worked the last 3 years at RX Bar, so like the protein bar company.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had worked at two big companies before that in college before that, and so first time working at like a startup, it was kind of an unlock in my head of like, oh, there's like so many of these like brands that are like up and coming that like people could invest in. Do you have like a whole portion of, you think about your like life portfolio where like, some people are only looking at like, you know, the stock market and maybe a 401k and they're trying to build up their savings or buy real estate. Do you like, did you early on were you like, at some point I want to make sure I'm investing in like brands, or did that just kind of happen? Because I've always wondered how people kind of like fall into investing in brands or companies.
Yeah, it just, I mean, being involved in the software company for that 4 year period, I was heavily involved in the startup community. I got introduced to lots of investors. I get introduced to lots of other startups. So, it was really that 4 year period of just networking and being involved in the tech space, going to South by Southwest, going
Mm,
to New York City a lot to different startup events, that I just built this network. And once you're in that world, it's like living in San Francisco and being involved in tech. Like
yeah.
you're in that world, so it becomes fairly easy to meet a lot of people that are pitching you all the time. It's easy to meet investors. Like you're just in that environment. So it was really, that time period that allowed me to build that network so that I'm just like in the mix with it. And it was also that time period that I realized, I find a lot more pleasure and purpose in investing in people I know and products I'm wearing and using. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have, a SEP IRA that's invested in, the S&P 500 companies, but, I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah.
But I'm
Right.
passionate about 10,000. And, I know that I can help move the needle some for, these smaller companies. And that just makes my heart sing. So that's why I like investing in consumer brands more. I don't have like 20% of my money goes to, startups and 80% goes. It's just kind of like if I am out in the world and I meet someone who I think is onto something, I love that product or service, then, I usually have a little money set aside to be able to invest in it.
Yeah, love that. Has there been any like major learning lessons so far from just investing in smaller companies, like whether it's good, bad, or indifferent for people who are interested in doing so?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, I mean, if you want to hit a home run, you need to really think through scaling. Like I invested in a restaurant in West Hollywood that was cool, but it just wasn't something that was scalable, and it's a very competitive space. Like even if it's the hottest restaurant in LA for 6 months, like tomorrow there could be the next one and everyone's going there. So,
Oh, yeah.
it's sometimes the sexiest industries are going to yield the lowest return
That makes
because
sense.
there's so much competition.
Yeah.
And like my insurance business has always been really profitable, and there's not nearly as much competition in that space, and it's something everyone needs. So um yeah, I've definitely learned lessons from, is it scalable or is it just a sexy investment where it sounds cool to say I invested in a restaurant in West Hollywood that has a
Right.
retractable rooftop?
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's probably what most people would gravitate towards is the sexy thing versus anything. But at the end of the day, that's not really what's most important. So that's a great takeaway.
Yeah, and team. I mean, the the team is so important. Like, what is their ability to market? What is their ability to onboard really good talent? What is their ability? What are their connections like to raise money? So, like thinking through that is super important. Like 10,000, like, they just checked off every single box. And, that's why they've scaled and grown so fast over the last few years, is because they had the connections, the knowledge. They had been involved in, big fundraising efforts before. So just understanding the founder's background is so much more important than, wow, that's a really cool idea if you can execute on it.
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah. Because when times get tough too, right? It's going to be the founders and the team that either make it or break it
Yeah.
type of thing too, right? Totally
Yep.
makes sense. Love that. How is like I was assuming COVID, especially with like New York and LA restaurants, has that been a tough go for that part of your investments side?
Uh, Definitely a tough go from a revenue standpoint, but I mean, the government is just giving out so much money that, they're a lot of in New York specifically, I know that the funding has been tremendous for,
Oh,
hospitality. So that's been nice. We were able to survive the storm until the funding came out, but,
yeah.
there were a lot of places that weren't able to, to wait, they couldn't negotiate with their landlord. They couldn't, whatever. So, but no, I was fortunate with the hospitality stuff in the city. No longer involved in the gym, so I'm
Okay.
not sure how the gym fared with all of it. I know gyms in general have not fared well. I don't know that they got the same type of federal money that restaurants did.
Right.
Um, and then like any of the consumer brands, like a lot of consumer brands took off because people, the government's giving out money and people are shopping online. So
Yeah.
a lot of online brands actually did better throughout COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, especially if you did a good job of either having an e-commerce business or moving things to a more e-commerce focus during
Yeah.
that. That was a big pivot for sure. Um, so I think the other cool thing that I wanted to chat through while we were doing this today was today, like a lot of the things that you're producing, like you said, it's endurance, athletics, it's CrossFit. Um, is there like a whole business in that you think like okay, obviously like your social following is this whole thing. But now that you've like fallen so in love with just like the content creation stuff, is there something in your head spinning that's like what you want to do? Like what's the next thing for Eric as you like continue to grow and evolve your own personal brand?
Yeah, so I think the big opportunity is video going forward. Whether it's YouTube, like, oh, there's always going to be platforms coming and going, but I mean, the one thing that's always going to hold true is if you captivate people and you have eyeballs, then you're going to be able to generate, marketing dollars and brand deals. So I think video is the next frontier, and I think everyone has the opportunity now to create their own like TV show, reality TV show. And
Yeah.
if they have some kind of unique spin, if they have some kind of value to provide, some kind of inspiration, can evoke emotion, people are going to tune in. And so yeah, I'm leaning more towards longer form video going forward. um and shooting just captivating shots, sharing more of my life, and hoping that I can provide more knowledge to people by doing that.
Yeah. I think you could have a really cool like vlog. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
that became really popular a few years ago, but you have so many like cool things going on, even like the just the business stuff that you're involved in, I think people would find very interesting.
Yep.
Um, love that. That's exciting. I totally agree. I think video is going to continue to be bigger and bigger.
Podcast too. I mean, what you're doing, I think people are tuning into their phones more and more, and their TVs
Yeah.
less and less. So anything that is easily accessible on a phone is where people's eyeballs are.
Yeah, podcasting I've fallen in love with, and I just think it's an interesting platform and medium because you can have conversations like this with people who you're not gonna have. I don't know. There's just not very many other use cases for two people or more than that to either do a video chat or be in person. Obviously, a lot of the podcasts are in person. I think are fantastic. It's gonna be really interesting to see. A lot of the big ones are getting snatched up right now by Spotify. Um, and Apple's trying to get into it a little bit now. I actually saw recently, so it's going to be interesting just to see what the landscape looks like over the next few years as more and
Yeah,
more people move to audio, and
I
then
agree.
the audio video combination is pretty cool. um so one of the pieces I love to ask, you being, an investor in brands, you also promote a lot of brands for folks who, are maybe CEOs or founders or someone who just has an idea and wants to start their own brand. Have any advice for any of them who maybe at some point would either, want to raise money or would want to look for investors? Like, what are some of the key things? I mean, I know you personally just talked through like you want to invest in companies that resonate with your, belief system and in your life.
Mhm.
But what on the other side, like is really important, like actual like characteristics or traits that you find to be really important in like a founder who's starting something?
Well, I think they should take smart money instead of just money. So partnering with people that can add more than just putting capital into it. So, do they have, connections that will add value to you scaling the company, growing sales, hiring people. So looking for people that can offer more than just capital, I think is super important. And, um, I like to tell people to like tell everyone your idea, because then there's accountability and you're going to get feedback, and execution is by far the hardest part. Like, it's not easy to execute and start a business and grow a business. And I think too many people are fearful of like sharing a good idea and getting feedback, and also having the accountability of having told people that I'm going to start this, so you actually do it. Um, and I like starters. I like investing in serial entrepreneurs that have, done multiple companies,
Oh yeah.
because, I know they have the wherewithal to, grind it out when times are tough, or to pivot, if it's not working initially, to do something different. Do they have the ability to grow a good team? They have the ability to, raise capital. So yeah, I like looking for founders that have done other companies.
Got it. I mean, that makes a ton of sense because I can only imagine too. That's got to be as tough as it is for like I've talked to a lot of founders on here who are trying to raise money and like trying to figure out who to talk to and how you do that. But I actually have never thought about it on the flip side. If you're someone who's looking to invest in companies, like trying to sniff out the people who maybe like are kind of full of shit or maybe just haven't gone through tough times, to your point, like that's probably how do you even like vet some of that? I guess it's probably a good follow-up question because like that seems kind of tough. Like if you're like I have X amount of dollars to invest, like
Yeah.
how many companies are you looking at?
Yeah, well, I've found that it's a numbers game. So the more people you meet, the more opportunities are going to be presented in front of you. And like, you just kind of have your metrics, and you're going to have to say no a lot in order to make space to say yes, and in order to have enough money to say yes when the right opportunity comes along. But if you're, immerse yourself in an environment where there's lots of, being in a co-working space, going to startup weekends, just being around startups and founders, like you're gonna have and tons of opportunities to partner with people, to invest in people, to start things with people. So, I think that's one of the first steps, is just being in an environment where you can, shake hands with a lot of people that are in that space that you want to be in. And, just also like understanding that there are going to be a lot of opportunities, and you have to be kind of patient to wait until there's an opportunity that comes along that meets your various metrics of what you're comfortable investing in.
Got it. Yeah. And then
Like, I've gotten much better at saying no over time. I
oh,
was
have you?
very quick to say yes early on because
Yeah.
everything sounds so cool. And, then you start to realize like, wow, there's going to be a lot of these opportunities coming my way because of all of the connections I've made. And like, I want to stay true to, what I said I would invest in. So,
Yeah.
it's just, again, being patient and knowing that, the right opportunities are going to come along.
How often would you say like an opportunity to invest comes up? Is it pretty frequent at this point?
Yeah, I mean, every other day I have an opportunity, someone reaching out to me
Yeah.
who's saying, "Hey, I'm starting something, are you interested?" And but, I think I have maybe 6 or 7 investments that
Okay.
I've made. So, what's that, averaging maybe one a year? I mean, there was
Yeah.
one year where I made a lot of them, 3 or 4. So, it really is just I think 2016 is when I made the majority of them, but I was just like immersed in that space and had that mindset of like, I'm looking to invest in companies, and I just feel like tons of opportunities are being sent my way. So that was kind of like my year where I just invested in a bunch of different consumer brands. And, I mean, now my days are quite a bit different being out here in Denver. I'm not, I'm exercising a lot more than I am like meeting with people. Out in the
That's nice.
wilderness, I'm mountain biking.
Yeah.
So, my I love my friend group here, but it's very different than what my friend group was when, I was spending a lot of time in like New York City or LA or, immersed in the startup world in Syracuse, New York.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's great though. Do you think it's a better quality of life where you are now, being out in nature and being more active than you were in the city?
Definitely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it just kind of goes back to our, our heritage of cavemen. Like, we were born to like move and be in nature and be in the sun and be barefoot and, be in cold streams and,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
these like have discomforts, like, the cold, the extreme heat. Like these are things now that we have to seek out because we've created all these modern luxuries for ourselves. But, the cave people didn't have that luxury of, having air conditioning or
Right.
being able to, get it, wear warm clothes. So, yeah, the more I am in nature and the more I live my life like a cave person, the more alive I feel.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I feel like I live in Chicago, just outside, like in the suburbs. So I'm much
Yeah.
more the city side of things. And I feel like I'm like, man, I just need like a break to like get out into the wilderness, do something outside the city. Every year that happens a few times. Um, The one other thing I wanted to ask you, and you hit on it, is you've become kind of well known for just like your recovery tactics. I wear a Whoop. I know you're a big Whoop guy. I know the guys at Beamwell, so I know you love their products. It's a great recovery tool. What is like, and obviously you're an investor in the and sorry, I'm blanking. It's like the I
10,000
no yeah, and then what's the ice barrel?
ice barrel. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the brand name? Yeah. Okay. What would you say, like, you do so much stuff. So what would you say, like, if you had, if you were on an island, you could bring one thing to help with recovery? I mean, maybe it's a tough question to put you on the spot, but like,
Yeah.
what is like, if someone who wants to start getting better at recovery, what would you say is like, you know, what's like the first thing you should try?
Cold exposure is by far my favorite. That's what I would bring. I would bring, an ice machine and I would bring the ice barrel with me so I
Okay.
could do cold exposure every single day. That works the best for me. Different people are designed differently. So some things work better for others. Extreme heat is my second favorite thing. So saunas, infrared saunas, barrel saunas. Um, I do like red light therapy. I do that on a fairly regular basis. But yeah, for me, cold exposure is it's not the easiest, but like the shortest way to increase your circulation, to stimulate your vagus nerve. I mean, it takes 5 minutes to jump in a cold stream, to jump in an ice barrel, to fill up your bathtub at home and put ice in it. So yeah, ultimately it's whatever is accessible to people. If you
Sure.
live in Florida and or Hawaii and don't have access to cold water, or it's a pain in the ass to get ice, or you don't have space to put some kind of device to hold the water and ice, then seeking out what is yoga, seeking out what is accessible to you to make it a lifestyle is the best practice. So whatever you can
Yeah.
do on a consistent basis.
Got it. That makes sense. How do you find cold exposure when you're traveling? Is it like actually going to like a cold stream usually?
If I'm in Colorado, Utah, yes. But I mean, I spend a couple weeks in Kauai every single year, and I have to back off on my volume because I do not have access to a sauna there. I don't have access to cold water. I'll stretch more. I might do yoga, but I have to back off on my volume. I
Yeah.
can't do a CrossFit workout and a run in the same day without doing some form of recovery because I'm going to be achy and sore the next day. So I do try to seek it out though, wherever I am. Most places before I travel to them, I already have something lined up where, I'm going to be able to use a sauna on a regular basis. I've figured out a person or facility that has, some kind of cold plunge. So it's something I research before I go, just like healthy restaurants and fitness facilities. Like I try not to interrupt my normal day to day, regardless of where I am in the world.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's not like you just show up places and then figure it out.
No.
It's very planned out. That's smart. That's smart. I don't know if a lot of people do that. Very good. I know we're getting low on time, so I have the final few questions I love to ask every founder and every athlete that comes on here. The first one is I always lead with book, but it could be book, podcast, just source of knowledge. What would you
Yeah.
say if you had to suggest one to the listeners today? What would be like your favorite book or source of
Yeah.
knowledge?
Ryan Holiday, Stillness is the Key. I think it's an important book for everyone to read, to understand that, we all need space in our brains to have like creative thought. And, stillness comes from more ways than just like a sitting meditation. Like for me, mountain biking is my meditation, where I'm just in flow state for an hour and a half. It's a high risk activity. My heart rate is elevated. I'm in nature. I'm super focused. I'm in the present moment, and it creates this incredible like mental clarity in my head. And Ryan Holiday talks a lot about that in the book Stillness is the Key. So I think that's a super important book for any entrepreneur to read.
Love it. I don't know if anyone is suggested that one on here. I've read that and love that book. One of my favorites of all time for
Awesome.
sure. So, but I'll add that one to the show notes. Um, you're involved in tons of different things. And so what tools do you use to track like your goals and then really like your daily tasks? Like how do you break those down into daily actions? Some people it's pen and paper, some people use apps. Do you have anything that you use on a daily basis to like plan and execute your life?
Sorry about that. I
Nope,
had
you're
a
good.
call coming in. The only thing I use now is my calendar for meetings. But I've created a structure in my life over the last 5 years that really is on autopilot. Like, I know what my breakfast is going to be. I know when I'm going to wake up without an alarm clock. I know I'm going to do my first training session from 10 to 12 every day. I know that I'm only going to allocate like 2 1-hour windows each day to take meetings, podcasts, do calls. I know that I'm going to do my recovery from 5 to 7 every single day. I know that I'm going to do some kind of outdoor adventure from 2 to 3:30 every single day. I know I'm going to go out to dinner with interesting people every single night. So I've
Wow.
really structured my life with blocks of time where like I don't allow for interruptions. My phone is on call forwarding all the time. So, I don't get interrupted. I have all of my notifications turned off. The only notification I have on is calendar appointments. So yeah, I've developed a structure so I don't need like an agenda. It's just kind of everything's on autopilot.
I love that. That seems so freeing. I have like a North Star that I always tell people like my whole thing long term is to just have autonomy. Like to
Yeah.
exactly what you just said. Like I want to be able to just like control when I do what I do all the time. And that's I think what
Yep.
most people probably at the end of the day would love to have. It sounds like you have it. So that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Structure is the ultimate freedom,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, cool. Good for you. That's awesome, man. Last question, but most important, how can the audience follow you? How can they get more involved with your journey and get involved with Eric Hinman?
Yeah. Instagram is the best place to follow me. And it's just my name, Eric Hinman, Hinman, Eric Hinman.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much. I'll add all that to the show notes so people can find all those good tidbits you added. And can't thank you enough for taking the time. This has been awesome.
Great chatting with you, Shane. Have a great rest of the day.
Appreciate it. You too, man. Have a good one.
See you, brother.
All right. See ya.